was my 2 cents on this Chevy truck situation, the frame rusting out. This cross member that holds the gas tank up, I want it replacing this one right here. I want it making the new shock mount brackets. I took a hole saw and 2 7/8 hole saw, because that's what size the tubing is, and I just cut a hole right in the middle of a piece of 3/16 by 4-inch flat steel, and then I took and cut it in half, and I had the 2 halves to go around there, and then just drilled the holes and cut them off. Reuse the hanger for the muffler, and I want to make new brackets for the fuel tank. I made the one on this side here in 2 pieces. I made that amount out of 3/16 by 4, which was a mistake. I should have made them out of something narrower than that, because I had to go back in there and trim them off. See if I can see that. That trimmed the sides of it also, wouldn't hit the gas tank. They had this thing set up where this tubing for this cross member for the fuel tank was bent in the middle. And I measured the bend on the thing. It's laying over here on the ground, right behind this chair right here. You can see the cross member right here, how it was completely ate up. I got the other end of it cut out there, and I got the end of it down here cut out. This one here was all, had holes in it here, but by the fuel tank there was almost nothing left holding the thing up. And I saw on the internet you could buy a new cross member for this thing for $300 with all the brackets and everything on it. But you'd be in the same boat, you know, a few years down the road you'd be in the same boat again. So I got a piece of, it's 2 7/8, 3/16 wall. I think there's another piece of it around here someplace. Pretty heavy stuff. And what I did was down below the tubing right there, you can see where I cut a half, there's a half moon welded in. I raised this thing up 1 inch higher than what it's supposed to be. And then I took the piece I cut out up here in the top and put it back in the bottom right here. The weld don't look pretty because there are some pretty big gaps I had to weld in. But it's welded back in there solid. And on the inside, yeah, that one over there, you can kind of see it. There's a piece of 3/16 by 8-inch wide plate. And turn the camera around here. I welded in this piece of steel. I bored the hole in there with a hole saw, and then I welded this piece of 3/16 steel plate in here, and to support on the other side. But just raising the thing up an inch allowed me to use a piece of straight metal across through there. The back one seemed to be for the shock mount. That ear was totally gone. That's what started this whole project. One of them ears in that shock mount was totally gone. Yeah, but the cross member on mine seemed to be fairly good yet, so I just took and cleaned it all up real good and MIG welded those. You can see the welds there look a lot better than the one up here, because, you know, it was a lot closer fitting. But the thing that, you know, they had put, when they built this truck, where'd that piece of metal go? Here it is. When they built these trucks, this piece of channel right here was laid on the frame down inside of here. This piece of metal, turn it, was down inside of here. Well, the way it's designed, with that long piece of metal down through there, when water gets in there, the water can't get away. It's going to run underneath this thing here and cause major rust. So it was already rusted in half. You can see this end down here. It was already rusted in half. So I just, they ain't doing nothing. The truck's still staying together. So I just took and with a plasma cutter, with it set down low, I was able to cut it in half of this far end down here. I drilled it out, drilled a couple holes in there first, and I took a plasma cutter and finished it off. And I was able to get the rest of that whole piece of metal out of there. And then I took an air chisel with a hammer bit on the end of it and vibrated the frame really good. I got to do a little bit more yet. But then that caused all that rust to flake out of there. And I mean, I got a pile of rust over here. There's one pile down here on the ground. And over here. Look at all that rust. And more of it over by the truck. Well, here you can see some more of that piece of metal that I removed out of there right here. There's nothing left of it. It's real thick at this end, but down here it's just paper thin, nothing. The same with this one right here. It held that water in there, causing it to rust out. How stupid you got to be when you make something like that. But yeah, it turned out this. I wound up cutting a couple pieces of inner tube and laid underneath this thing right underneath this cross member right here now to tighten this fuel tank back up. And there's no holes drilled in that thing at all. I didn't drill any holes in it at all. And then when I made those shock mounts, I had these little plugs from the hole saw cut out, and I welded these over the end and welded the hole back up. So now there's that cross member. The only way it's going to rust out is from the outside in instead of both from the inside and the outside. So that's fixed. And when I get done here, I'm going to coat this thing with that fluid film to stop what's going on here. Otherwise, I ain't going to have a truck left. This is, you know, frames of trucks ain't supposed to rust out like this, but they sure are, man. There's two other ones I've seen recently. They're just gone. There's nothing left of them. Shock, spring hanger mounts and all that kind of stuff is gone on them. Mine are all still good on here. So that one there has already been coated with that fluid film. I'm putting another coat on it. But yeah, by raising that cross member up 1 inch, I was able to just use a straight piece of tubing through there. Like I said, the only thing I should have done different was made these hangers for the tank narrower, and I shouldn't have welded. I welded this one on. I measured it off the old one and welded it on. That was a mistake. I should have put the fuel tank up there and then brought it over to it where it wouldn't rub, and then welded. You know, then set everything back down and marked it, and then welded it on. This one here was the same way. I had to get back in there and cut part of the side of it off. I don't know if you can see down that little tiny hole right there or not, but pretty tough to see down in there. But I had to wind up trimming the sides, this one here, so it wouldn't hit the fuel tank also, because I made them too wide. They should have been like, 3 inches wide tops. But yeah, I just want to show everybody my cross member I put in there, and it's rock solid now. And this front tubing they put up here, the front cross member up here right behind the cab, they got holes drilled in this tubing. One hole there, one hole here, another hole here, another hole here. No, there's one up the front. There's a hole here, there's a hole here. It's full of holes. Okay? And then they crimped the end of the tubing off on each end. This one here is all crimped off. You see a little hole I got right? Can you see that little hole I got? Let me see if I can zoom in on that. Little hole I drilled in there. I drilled a hole on that side. I drilled a hole on the other side, and after I run a drill bit through there, water come running out of that cross member. But now, who in their right mind? You can see the hole on this side here where I drilled in there too, right toward the front. That's the lowest point. Who in their right mind would have built a cross member like that to hold water? You know, what kind of engineers we got these days? Unless they're intently designing a thing to fail. And that's my conclusion, because I know GM's not this stupid. They sure did make this thing here. Plus that calcium chloride they're spraying on the roads nowadays, it just eats the steel up. I mean, it just eats it up. I got to remove that over there for that airbag. You can see right there how much that rust jacking is occurring right there on the frame right there. I got to take that off there, and I'm going to coat that with that fluid film before I put it back together. But yeah, it's been a nightmare doing all this stuff, trying to get them little pieces of steel out of that frame up there in the front. In front of that front spring hanger, which goes on down. There, like I said, they were rusted in half anyway. Truck's still staying together. I didn't figure it needed them. The top one's still in there, but I took the bottom ones out. But they wanted, like I said, $300 to buy one of these, which would have been a thin one, where mine's way thicker and it's all welded back in good. And then I don't see that one ever rusting out again. I really don't. You can kind of see that rubber right there by the gas tank. Piece of inner tube, a big tractor inner tube I cut up. But yeah. So I saved $300 on that cross member. Got that piece of steel from the scrap yard, 30 cents a pound, so it wasn't much. And I was able to reuse the one for the muffler hanger. Had to clean it up. Made my own shock mount hangers. And yeah, so I'm going to be under $100 in this. I had to buy one gas tank strap. The front one of them was rusted out pretty bad. It's laying on the ground over there. They rubber coated the gas tank straps. And one of them it was working out fine on. But this other one right here, you can see the rubber all peeling off of it. The water got inside the rubber and it was just going to rust. It was going to drop the tank on the ground. And this back cross member right here, I mean, it wasn't far from the tank falling down. And now there ain't no way in hell it's going to come down. I'm going to just coat this good with that fluid film inside there. That should fix that. $53 fuel pump off of eBay. Yeah, it's cheap when I put the gas in it, it started right up, so I guess it's working okay. We'll see how that turns out. Maybe they wind up changing that again. I took it when I put this, took the ring off here that holds your fuel thing in. Excuse me, and I glass beaded it all real good. Then I painted it all with primer real good, and then before I put it on there, I coated the bottom with the fluid film. And I took a pair of, 2 pairs of channel locks. And I was able to squeeze between this point and this point right here to turn this plate instead of trying to beat it with a screwdriver. It didn't seem like it was working, so I put a pair of channel locks on each side of that thing and squeezed my channel locks, and it popped that thing right into place. That was, you know, might be a tip somebody else could use there too. 2 pairs of channel locks and just squeeze against, you know, the ear and the plate, and it'll turn the plate and it'll pop right into place. Yeah, I'm kind of disgusted with this whole thing. I've been working on this thing for days and days and days, trying to get it all back together so I can drive it. Here's my kitty cat. Anyway, hope this helps somebody out. You know, give them an idea that they can use a straight cross member in there. It will work. You know, you just got to raise it up an inch, approximately 1 inch. That's about, I just measured the offset in the old one, how much it was sticking up, and yeah, it seems to be working fine. Anyway, enough for now.